puzzled by the way the book begins. He cites some New Testament scholars he admires, and I guess in whose intellectual company he wants to keep himself. But then it's also interesting that he goes after some very interesting people: John MacArthur, John Piper, my own pastor, Greg Gilbert. Greg wrote a very influential book just asking the question, what is the gospel? And he answers it. And, so it's very interesting. And, of course, they've been in some exchange back and
Boy, that would be interesting. Bates picks on Mohler's pastor, who wrote a book, What is the Gospel? Oh, man. Why would Bates ever select that guy to critique? Because he wrote a book called What is the Gospel?
and forth, too. But it's very interesting, very close to the section you read on page 65. He says that Piper and Gilbert's position inadvertently taints the gospel with our culture's narcissistic individualism. The gospel can't count as good news unless I personally get something out of it.
And absolutely, Bates is correct. How many contemporary Christian music songs are just so self-centric? I know I talked about this last week. At worst, you get the self-help gospel. A more charitable take, though, is, even in evangelical churches that are teaching orthodoxy, it's still this very what I call self-centric gospel. It's this, if you do this, then this will be your benefit. The songs are about you, me, and the music is not about Christ the King. To me, I fully agree with Bates. I agree with his analysis. I think this has happened in our evangelical culture. So much so, the teaching has been so pervasive that it's now impacted our practical theology in the form of our worship music.
That's one of the most puzzling sentences I've ever read in theological literature.
I mean, to call these people even inadvertently narcissistic?
Yeah, inadvertently. It means they don't mean it, but they're acting like narcissists, right? It's self-help. It's stay out of hell free card. Do the Romans road, stay out of hell free. Nothing else required. That's the approach. That's the model that Bates is responding to. Now, it's unintentional. It's not that people who are pitching the Romans road are trying to lead people in the Lord's Prayer and never hear from them or never disciple them once again. It's all part of a well-intended approach to having people learn about Jesus. It's inadvertent narcissism. That's what those words mean together. And for some reason, Mohler and Schreiner just can't get it. They just don't understand it. Mohler says it's the most puzzling thing. Pretty easy to me. I understand it. What do you think?
Oh, what about the gospel writers? Are they narcissistic?
I think what he's failing to understand is it's interesting. In the Old Testament, at one point when the Philistines have triumphed over the Israelites, they go and they proclaim the good news in the house of their gods.
Right.
The gospel that their God has defeated the God of Israel.
Now that's funny because Hamilton talks about a reference to the good news and how it's used, how that term, the good news, is used in the Old Testament, which is great. And he proceeds to talk about a military victory. It's almost like, are we listening to Bates here? Now, I want to hear more of what Hamilton's saying, but the whole point is that the gospel is not about a particular theory of the atonement or about what it can do for you, but it's about news of a military victory. Now, yes, there are entailments. There's an effect of that event, but the effect is not the event itself. So Hamilton's reference here, I think, helps Bates's approach.
In that case, the gospel is bad news. The gospel of the Philistines is bad news for the Israelites.
Right.
It means their God has triumphed. And it's like he wants to deny that.
Well, it's not. It's because it's a false gospel, right? If we're going to use an analogy here for the New Testament, it's a false gospel. We want the true gospel.
That fundamental reality. That's all these guys are saying. They're saying the gospel is that Christ has triumphed and his people are delivered, and if you're not part of his people, that's not good news for you. Just like it wasn't, the Philistine good news was not good news for the Israelites. I don't understand why he...
Notice how Hamilton talks about the gospel there. Listen again, because the way he said it there, I think, is compatible with Bates's model. Listen again.
In that case, the gospel is bad news. The gospel of the Philistines is bad news for the Israelites.
Right.
It means their God has triumphed.
Right here.
And it's like he wants to deny that fundamental reality. That's all these guys are saying.
Here.
They're saying the gospel is that Christ has triumphed and his people are delivered. And if you're not part of his people, that's not good news for you.
a group, right? So now I disagree with Hamilton's interpretation of that's not good news, but listen to how he described it. Christ is victorious over the grave, and he's delivered his people. It's a corporate term, people. And if you're not part of the people, right, that's wholly compatible with Bates's model. So well done by Hamilton. Now he's got it. He doesn't realize it, but now he's got it.
Like, it wasn't, the Philistine good news was not good news for the Israelites. I don't understand why he's objecting to this.
And he says earlier on that same page, Dr. Mueller, that you cited, page 65, well, that Gilbert and Piper say that your personal response is required. It doesn't count as fully good news in their view. What God has accomplished in establishing a saved community. But in his view, what has God established apart from the response of individuals?
Well, that gets back to set theory, right? So I can't get away from it. So where is the church?
There we go
again. It
again.
seems to be a very porous entity.
Yeah, so, boy, what has he established? Man, have you read the book of Acts? What did Christ establish? I mean, I think Luke did a pretty good job describing for us the historical events and the happenings, including the internal conversations of the early church and the great works and wonders that they did.